So today is election day. I just voted a little while ago, and there's been a lot of things said about the importance of this election and what it's going to come down to and all of that. And I think that the important thing to kind of get out of the whole situation is not so much between the candidates who we have, but more so the fact that many people have said, like, the thing that it'll come down to is if men decide to vote. And that being that men are overwhelmingly in favor of Donald Trump, but typically far less motivated to get out and vote. And to be honest, I don't necessarily like Donald Trump or think that he's an amazing person. I kind of think it's hilarious how he trolls people and how people get upset about him. But the factions are very much in this male versus female divide. And the question is, what is that and the nature of that divide, and what are men and women voting for or not voting for, voting against? And I think that the Democratic side is very much focused on abortion and protecting this right that women have become accustomed to end their pregnancy, even though the other side is said explicitly that they're not going to try to repeal those rights. People have seemed to get in their head that's what's going on. But I think it's more overall the whole ethos of the thing of, it's the side that says that men are dangerous and that women need protection from them, and they need this escape from the potential, what can happen if a man impregnates a woman. And it's really the framing of the two sexes. Does it come down to how strongly women believe that men are dangerous and that they need a government to protect them from men, versus do men want to have a role in the future? And I think it's clearly not, men are not overwhelmingly motivated to defend their right to be the bad guy and immoral. In fact, those are the ads that the Democrats have been running, saying that, oh, if the Democrats lose, you're going to take away your porn and whatnot. Men are not excited about pornography. Men feel enslaved by pornography, and it's a symptom of a greater malaise. And so the question is do enough men have a vision of a hopeful future to turn out and vote? Even though these are not ideal choices, I think that's what these two choices represent. And it does come down to the men, as they said. If the men do not vote, then the Democrats will win, and the Democratic message about the nature of masculinity and femininity will win. And it's really sad, because I think that these candidates that we have are not ideal. Donald Trump's not ideal. Some of the other surrounding characters that he has, or the team, are more admirable in a lot of ways. And the fact that he's pulled together a coalition of different people is, I think, something impressive and something that should be worth considering. But I see it as at least thinking about going forward, and like a project that I've had in mind to start a sort of a trade school type discipleship program, something that builds up men, that creates a positive vision for masculinity in the future. And this is a problem that someone like Rudyard Lynch has articulated, that there is no vision for the right, the conservative side. There's no unifying vision. Of course, I believe it should be, within Christianity, there's a unifying vision to a certain extent. There's different streams of Christianity. The book Christ and Culture really outlines that. But I think that to the extent that Christian civilization and Christian society has been a good thing overall, and it's not the advancement of society, but the removal of Christ that's caused the deterioration of our current civilization, that there is a positive vision there to be claimed. The question is, do enough men see it and see the potential of it in this election? But that's the thing I think going forward that needs to be seized. So I guess the question is in a sense from like God's point of view, he is in charge of all things, and he can put these things on people's hearts, and he can affect the change that he wants. And so the question is are people looking at this, if the regime changes and there are an increased opportunities for men to become fully masculine men and to build good civilizational strengthening things that help men, will they seize this opportunity and make something good of it, or will it just be the temptation to kind of fall back into lazy consumerist patterns and maybe enjoy a boosted economy? Is the drive to make more money the thing that will propel men to the ballots, or is it the opportunity to build families and to build something that truly lasts? And I think that's kind of the question. And if not, if men are not going to seize the moment in that way, then then that's the message that 4 years from now needs to build that. And I truly believe this, just because when you think about starting something like a project, like around building trades, the bureaucratic bloat that comes from just the democratic form of government, regardless of any of the moral issues and things, it's just so oppositional to actually helping people make something better. It stifles creativity. It stifles ambition. It's this thing that turns everything into this nanny state and this welfare state, and the promotion of victimhood as like a virtue, which is really, really especially toxic to men. And I think the thing is that they have used women, they've sort of tricked women into voting for this continuously, because they've made women to be afraid of men, and they've allowed men to be misbehaved. And that's men's fault in a lot of ways, because really, truly, there's nothing better for women than for men to become masculine and virtuous and good, and to embrace all of the good things about the masculine nature and the way that God has created them. And I think that we have a warped image, this idea that men can't control themselves sexually and things like that. I think that's false, and I think that we deceive ourselves with those messages, and we need better messages for men. So the kind of question will be, will we find out tonight, tomorrow, sometime, weeks from now, what happens? And if so, is that something that's going to kind of inflate the sales of good masculine projects, or is it going to be a time where we have to suffer more to really embrace that virtuous path? Because I think either way, and that's what I've crafted my project and the kind of ethos behind it in the thought that no matter what happens, that you can do this. The early church, it thrived in a time of persecution and in an underground situation, but it shouldn't have to be that way. And if we can see the good way to thrive in the open, in the freedoms that we have, and to choose to turn from just, the hedonistic pleasures that our world offers us, and use the freedom that's created by that worldview to do something really great, I think that we have a bright future. But really, it kind of just remains to be seen. Is it going to be now? Is it going to be sometime in the future? Is it going to happen in a kind of voluntary way, or is it going to be out of further necessity? Because eventually, I think dire circumstances will challenge men to rise to the occasion, but it also creates opportunity for greater destruction from evil men, and I do not want to see that, especially as a father of young women. I do not want anything that this democratic regime has to offer, because the one thing that it will absolutely not produce is men who can provide for my daughters. It's taking the role of those men who I want to grow to become worthy to be their future husbands. And the more that women rely on the state and trust in the state and use the tools of the state to protect their rights and their freedoms, the more that they tie themselves and enslave themselves to that source of power. So, those are my thoughts. And I think, either way, the path forward is on the ground. It's in the grassroots. It's among people trying to build those relationships and grow those things. But I think that the morale of men in general is so low, and I don't know if enough of them have gotten the glimpse of hope that maybe through this democratic process and voting today, that they could become part of the change or not. I don't know. I don't think that I think that message was not pitched to young men the way it should have been. But if it's not now, then it will be in the future, because there's not much lower that we can go on the current path. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.